Joining us now to discuss the top stories of the day is Jarosław Ćwiek-Karpowicz, director at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Good evening, welcome, thank you for coming to us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Russia keeps pounding Ukraine, but this was not a particularly good week for Russia and its allies.
Indeed, in Venezuela and in Iran, we observe some events like the change of the power in Venezuela, and in Iran, huge protests, which definitely give some problem for Russian leadership. I mean, the global influence of Russia is diminishing. We still don't know who will be the next president of Venezuela, because Maduro's regime, let's say, can be continued by the next president. And also in Iran, very often the Ayatollah regime faced serious protests on the streets. So
but this one is probably the biggest we've seen in a long time, isn't it?
True. But we still don't know what will be the outcome of this protest, especially during the winter time, and what is the motivation of the people, and also who supports them. Definitely for US and for Israel, for Western countries, there are much less opportunities to influence the situation in Iran than in Venezuela. But Russia, I think, decided many years ago not to play the very important role globally, but rather regionally. So it means that for Putin, it's a good opportunity to show Donald Trump that, okay, Venezuela, it's your sphere of influence, so give me a free hand in Ukraine. And this is a problem for us, because with Trump's attitude towards international law and some willingness to change a world between global powers, Ukraine could be perceived by Americans as a sphere of Russia's influence. And this is not good news for Poland and European NATO allies.
But in the last few days, we have seen the US attitudes to Russia harden when it comes to Ukraine. There is talk about a new sanctions bill sponsored in the Senate. The peace talks in Paris, the Americans seem to be much more aligned with Europe than with Russia. So, unless I'm reading it wrong.
Sure. I mean, definitely Europeans are trying to be very careful, and every sign of weaknesses from the US administration are in the same time reacted by some statements, declaration of support for Ukrainians. But on the other hand, I think that US administration is very careful regarding Russian economic situation. I doubt if US, despite the activity of Congress, if US is trying to impose the new sanctions, but definitely would like to play with these sanctions which are on the table. For example, quite recently, a few tankers with Venezuelan oil, which were supported, or it was a part of shadow fleet of Russia, they were completely blocked by Americans on the international sea. So definitely US is trying to play very strong with Russia regarding not imposing of a new economic sanctions, but rather to make these sanctions effective, more effective than before.
President Trump has already imposed some sanctions on Russia. He seems to be reluctant to do more, but at the same time there are signs that he's increasingly frustrated that Putin again doesn't move. So, in your judgment, in your best judgment, what is the likelihood that this pressure is going to increase in the next few weeks?
I think that Russia is perceiving this very ambivalent policy of Donald Trump very well, and especially now is trying to play a little bit harder. The recent attack on Ukraine by Russia, which were not only drones but hypersonic missiles were introduced, let's say, on the area. Probably it should serve also some political purposes. That means to make in Europe some kind of shock, of very negative reaction that Russia is able to use very precise and very dangerous weapon, which is able to also to have nuclear warheads.
A demonstration
so it's
of
a
force.
political demonstration of force vis-à-vis Europeans, but also Americans. Because this kind of weaponry definitely is not perceived as the most significant weaponry used in Ukraine. These weapons, these rockets, may be used also on some American targets. So this is a political manifestation, and also, unfortunately for Ukrainians, since many months, Russia is targeting energy infrastructure, civilian energy infrastructure in Ukraine. So it means that the society facing a very serious and harsh winter probably would be in a very bad condition. And it's also political pressure on Ukraine and on Europeans, because more Ukrainian migrants in Europe make problem for European politicians. So I think that now Russia is not interested in some kind of peace negotiation, what we observed a few weeks ago, but rather to put more military pressure on Ukrainian infrastructure, also making some, let's say, political steps, and then waiting for the next, probably maybe in spring, after this massive attacks, a new round of negotiation. I personally do not believe that these negotiations, which were launched before the New Year Eve, would be finalized with some decisive conclusion.
So basically, we're back at square one with this. Do you see any signs, referring to what you just said, do you see any signs that the Ukrainian society is giving in to this pressure from Russia, or on the contrary, their resilience is strengthened?
I mean, the domestic situation in Ukraine is that definitely the President Zelensky were in a very weak position regarding the corruption scandal, and of course changing of the high-level politicians, including Andrei Yermak. So his position in the society was very weak, and society properly demanded some change, and Russia also were trying to use this momentum a few months ago. Now I think situation is much better. I think that the external pressure definitely have some motivation, let's say, signal, and now
rally around the flag.
Exactly. So we have a new people around around President Zelensky. Probably his rating is a little bit increasing. However, still probably during next presidential elections he would lose his position towards. But other
that's the
so it's exactly.
But for now, Ukrainian society is holding together.
Yes, it's rather stable.
Jarosław Ćwiek-Karpowicz, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. This was World News Tonight. Thank you, and stay with us for more news and analysis.